Friends, gather around because tonight we're diving into the wild world of administrative law. This case is about a power struggle that could affect us all. It starts with former President Trump and his unique approach to governing. One moment involved the National Labor Relations Board, or NLRB, the referee for fights between workers and their bosses. Trump decided he didn't like the way the NLRB was playing referee, so he tried to fire one of its members, Gwen Wilcox. Now, firing people is kind of Trump's thing, but it turns out you can't just fire anyone you want, especially when it comes to independent agencies like the NLRB. The Founding Fathers realized that giving one person all the power was a recipe for disaster. So they created the Constitution, which split the government's power into three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Trump argued that he had the right to fire Wilcox because of something called the Unitary executive theory. This theory says that the president is the head honcho of the entire executive branch, but Judge Howell, who heard the case, was not impressed by Trump's arguments. She basically said that Trump's understanding of presidential power was about as accurate as a toddler's understanding of quantum physics. So who is Gwen Wilcox, and why was her firing such a big deal? She was the first African-American woman to serve on the NLRB. That's right, in the entire history of the NLRB dating back to the 1930s, there had never been an African-American woman on the board until Gwen Wilcox came along. But Wilcox wasn't just appointed for her symbolic value. She brought a wealth of experience and a deep understanding of labor law to the job. Before joining the NLRB, Wilcox had a long and distinguished career fighting for workers' rights. Her presence on the NLRB was a victory for workers everywhere, especially those who had historically been marginalized and silenced. When Trump tried to fire her, it wasn't just an attack on Wilcox personally, it was an attack on the very idea of a fair and impartial system for resolving labor disputes. It was a sign that Trump was more interested in stacking the deck in favor of corporations than in protecting the rights of ordinary Americans. Now, you might be wondering, what's the big deal about one person on a board? Surely the NLRB can function just fine without Gwen Wilcox. Well, not so fast. The NLRB is designed to have 5 members, and they make decisions by majority vote. With Wilcox gone, the board was down to just 3 members, which meant they couldn't issue any rulings or take any action on important labor disputes. Think of it like a car trying to run on 3 tires. Without a functioning NLRB, corporations were basically free to do whatever they wanted to their workers. They could bust unions, engage in unfair labor practices, and generally throw their weight around without any fear of consequences. This is exactly what the Founding Fathers were worried about when they created the system of checks and balances. Judge Howell's ruling in the Gwen Wilcox case was a powerful reminder that the president is not above the law. It was a victory for the Constitution, for the system of checks and balances, and for the rights of workers everywhere. But the fight is far from over. The Trump administration appealed Howell's ruling, and the case could eventually make its way to the Supreme Court. If that happens, the stakes will be even higher, not just for the NLRB and for labor law, but for the very future of American democracy. So the next time you hear someone talking about the Unitary executive theory, remember Gwen Wilcox and the importance of an independent judiciary.